It's time to say goodbye to hold music and say hello to fast customer support with Service Cloud. With trusted AI and data working together, you can skip long wait times and deliver efficient, personalized service right away, all while keeping support costs low and more customers happy. Reimagine your customer support with the #1 AI CRM for service. Learn what's possible at salesforce.com/products/service.
This episode is brought to you by Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business. Want to advance your career or switch fields? An MBA from Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business can help. Earn your degree from a top-ranked business school with a thought-provoking curriculum, one-on-one leadership coaching, support from experienced career counselors, and full-time, online hybrid, and accelerated MBA formats. Join the intelligent future. Visit cmu.edu/Tepper to learn more.
My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. You are listening to Age of Jeremy. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm the co-founder of Age of Radio and 3T Fitness, and, well, other businesses that I am working on. This podcast is about everything that I learn and the trials and tribulations it took to learn them. I hope you enjoy. Thank you again so much for tuning into the Age of Jeremy. I hope you're having a great week so far. And just to kick this off, if you could make sure to subscribe to this podcast, make sure that you check out Age of Jeremy on Instagram and also Age of Jeremy on TikTok, and make sure to check out some of the other stuff and blogs that we have going on at ageofjeremy.com. If this is the first time that you're joining again, this is a podcast that talks about the things that I'm learning and trials and tribulations while I build my family businesses and all of the other things that go along with that in life, and trying to share those things in podcast form. And it's funny, if you end up hearing a lot of ringing in the background on this podcast, it's about the time that I feed my dogs, and our Havanese Bane is very adamant that he gets fed at 6:30 p.m. So I'm actually recording this on July 25th on a Saturday, trying to really, get into a much better habit of setting time aside to record for these podcasts, mainly because one of the things that I came across, man, I wish I could remember who wrote it, but it's been really impactful since I read it. Maybe it was in an entrepreneur.com magazine. I don't know. Forgive me. And again, if someone who did write this piece is listening to this and I'm not saying it correctly, I apologize. But essentially, one of the first things that you want to do when you're starting to have a business is you want to, or for trying to gain extra money, you want to focus on paying one bill from that specific business. So for instance, for me, we have I think our phone bill right now is $281. So I think my wife just bought a new S20, and then we pay for my niece. My niece's iPhone is on our plan, and we bought her an older iPhone, like an iPhone SE or something like that. I don't know if that's even an iPhone. I'm not an Apple person. And then I have my old Samsung, and then we have unlimited. I'm sure we're overpaying because it's Verizon, but nonetheless, so my goal is to make enough money just from Age of Jeremy stuff to cover that bill, and then I'm going to move on to some other items. And so that's one of the things where I'm trying to get really good at, as Joey Galvez from House of Indie and our podcast development officer at Age of Radio, as he says, have 2 loaded in the can. I'm not 100%. I know what that means. I don't know where that expression came from, but I want to get a lot of more podcasts loaded up in the can so that I can keep on a reoccurring basis. And one of the ways to do that is, if you've been listening to this for the years, I decided to drop off doing the seasonal podcast. And anytime that I have a seasonal idea, like we just finished up Tribes, I'm going to change that to change that to a series based a bunch of the episodes. So there'll be like series instead of those seasons, right? So like this podcast is just going to be episodic. So I just really went to an episodic piece because there's lots of other things that I really want to experiment with. And one of those things is really interviewing people that are what we call warriors, or I call Sohai. And I really need to look up if I'm saying that right. It's Sohei. And essentially, a Sohai is a warrior monk. There is an Instagram TV Age of Jeremy piece that I'm doing on warrior monks and the things that go along with it. But essentially, the way that I look at it is it's like all of those esoteric or weird practices that take you out of the things that you would do to make yourself a better human being. And then also, too, for me, it's important that I associate my brand or myself or my person with Buddhism a lot more than I have in the past. And so that's one of the things that I kind of want to talk about on that IGTV series. And then also, too, I kind of want to experiment with IGTV. And the other great thing about doing these types of, instances or whatever the case is that, or doing a lot of these different, platforms, as you learn a lot of more interesting things that have always been interesting to me personally. So I've always been a fan of Adobe. I went to the Adobe Experience Makers Live first virtual event. Actually, it was the first Experience Makers Live, I believe, but it was all a virtual event and it was just fantastic. It's everything that I love listening to, I like talking about, and I love being around Adobe products. And I think Adobe does a great job with their mission and staying true to that mission, and they have over time. Now, that being said, with the IGTV, it gave me the opportunity to learn a little bit about Adobe Premiere Rush. And Adobe Premiere Rush is a version of Adobe Premiere that allows you to rush out the product a lot quicker. So it's got, I want to say, less tools than Premiere Pro, which is what like big movie studios, Disney, movies and things like that are edited in alongside probably Apple's editing software. I forgot what it's called. But Premiere Pro is one of the main products that movie editors use. And so I want to get more into that piece of it and make really good video alongside, and as we grow, there's lots of other things that I like to do with, YouTube channels and IGT. I think the reason why I think that IGTV is really good and I think people should put it out there is because a lot of people spend time on Instagram, and I think it's easier to get the videos in front of people than having like a separate YouTube channel that you try to push people to. If you do that on IGTV, then you can make these nice 10-minute vlogs or longer, depending on how your Instagram is, what you're allotted. And so when you do it with IGTV, you can do a post so all of your people see it, and then it links over to the IGTV. And I think it works really, really well. And I think that Facebook did a really good job with that piece of Instagram. And so that's one of the ways that that's the reason why I like learning a lot of new things, is because the things that I feel like I've lost myself over the years with movies and the arts and the creative piece of it has been lost with me. And that's why getting back into creating my own content, creating my own podcast, and not just editing people, but even editing other people. These are things, the things that I enjoy, and trying to make time with that. It's difficult. Some of the things that I want to get into here in a minute, I'll tell you why. But spending time with my counselor is I was able to started doing counseling sessions again to help better myself and the way that I feel about certain things and the way that I react to certain things, and to make me an overall better leader. And one of the things that I had, when I was talking to her and she was asking me about the history, when I explained like the history of where I came from, and then learning about finance and accounting and marketing, that really was, I'm just going to be honest, that really wasn't my passion. I enjoy that stuff to an extent now, but that's one of the biggest and I think it's beneficial because if I hadn't done those things, it would be difficult to do the business things that I do now. And I like the analytical things, I excelled at it, and that's why I went into that field. But when I was talking to originally, when I look back in my life, originally I wanted to be a veterinarian and work in biology. And when that, or with zoology, and when that fell through because of, my sinuses, like even right now, when I talk and I get, I have sinus problems going on right now and it's affecting my breath. And that's usually what you're hearing on this. Also, I talk really fast. And when I suck in the air, it's usually heard. But, excuse me. But when I look at that, and then when that fails, right? And because of my not fails, but because I have too many sinus problems, I can't be around the animals. When that fails, my main goal was to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist because I really wanted to help people because my family, it runs in my family, mental disorders, and just the overall benefit of, going deep inside of our own thinking and our own mind and our own selves and becoming better always intrigued me. And I never followed through with that because I really don't know why. I think it just became down to the fact that we didn't have money growing up. I would come from really poor and meager means. And when I met a gentleman when I was in Flagstaff, when I used to live in Flagstaff in my early 20s, I met someone that talked to me about finance. And, I got, excited about being wealthy and, becoming a, financial analyst and buying and selling stocks and all of the things that go along with that I just focused on that because I thought that it would lead to happiness, which was money. And I don't have that. Happiness isn't, a thing that, to me anyways. Being able to, like, I can't go out and buy like a plane right now or, go out and buy, a bunch of stuff, but we don't live paycheck to paycheck, obviously. And then we have the businesses that bring in income, and we have lots of goals in our life, or I have lots of goals in my life. And I try to build those goals with my wife, but that money doesn't seem as important to me. What's more important to me is making the world a better place and educating people and getting out there and doing, getting the freedom of not having the businesses be my main source of income and growing that and continuing to grow that and then do really great things with that. And so when I look back at that, my creative piece is where I really want to be spending a lot of my time, in creating the businesses. So that's one of the things why I changed the podcast to the episodic piece so that it allowed me to not have to be so structured in the things that I'm talking about. And also, like I was mentioning, the wanting to do interviews with people, the people that we call the warriors or the so-highs, or the people that do the studying and the learning from them to add them into our own acumen or curriculum or routine so that we can become even better people and work towards the goals that we want in life. And so I didn't feel that I could do that with this being a seasonal podcast or having seasonal episodes. And the episodic piece allows me to take more of kind of what's been going on and just, light up the mixer here, the Zoom L8, and start talking like I am now. And I appreciate everybody that's choosing to listen to me. I have sometimes difficulty when it's just someone that's talking into the mic. I have to be entertained a little bit more personally. There are some podcasts that I can do that with. Seth Godin is one of them. But I do appreciate everybody that does listen to this and people that hopefully get benefit to the things that I'm saying. But the main, to get back to like more of the main point of this specific podcast is that it's really exciting to me because I have had when you spend a lot of time learning about yourself and meditating and seeing the world the way that I see it, which is a lot, well, I guess it's a lot different than people, I would say. But you're okay with the things when they happen. So I remember when I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I was actually just I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes incorrectly. And then I got re-diagnosed from an endocrinologist. We did some C-peptide testing to find out that I had type 1 diabetes, because he figured that because my mother did, and it runs in the family, and because it was because the medicine that they had given me for type 2 diabetes wasn't working, that that more than likely was type 1. And so when all that happened, I got really devastated, because we have a cousin, my mother's my grandfather's sister, had a son who died from type 1, and he lost his legs, he lost his arms. It like ate him all up. And from the way that my mother explained it, was that he took very, very good care of himself, and that still was the way that ended up. And so when I had the type 1 diabetes, and this was before I really dived more into Buddhism and going back into esoteric practices and really focusing on spirituality and religion and things like that, when I got the type 1 diabetes, I was 27. And so it really like wrecked me to the fact that I felt that it would have a really big impact, on my life. As it should, right? Because you have to change the way that you look. You have to change the things that you do, the behaviors that you have. You have to add in this whole thing, because it's a chronic disease that has no cure as of right now. And so when that happened, that was really difficult. It was really difficult for me, because I figured that it would eventually kill me. And so as I got better at managing it, and I'm not the best at managing it, which is going to lead into more of this, was that, I started feeling better. I got my regular weight, got back to my normal average weight that I was at, which was like 180 at the time, 200. And then, life kind of takes over, and you kind of start to lose the things that you're focusing on. And when I started working and doing these things with John, it reinvigorated a lot of the things that I wanted to do with my life, and the things that I found full enjoyment in. And that's the reason why I'm starting to do all of these things now, is because this is where my full enjoyment is in this creative process, and educating people on the things that I know and the things that I learn, and being a teacher. And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because now I got diagnosed with another disease that essentially unmaintained could kill you. And I didn't know it had like the type of impact that it had, which brings me to a really important point about my thinking about physicians specifically. And the reason why I've kind of changed that is because if I hadn't like given this physician another chance, they wouldn't have found out about this specific disease or problem that I had been ignoring for a long time. And then I wouldn't have been diagnosed with it, and I couldn't get on the medicine that I'm on now, and not feeling the way that I've started to feel these last couple of days being on it and getting back to normal. So let me kind of rewind here, but let's go ahead and take a quick break, and I'm going to feed the dogs, and you're going to listen to some fun advertisements.
Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
I got diagnosed, thankfully, with hypothyroidism. And so hypothyroidism usually comes hand in hand with people that have type 1 diabetes because there's an autoimmune disease that stops the production of the hormone from the thyroid gland. And it's a part of your endocrine system, just like your pancreas is, specifically with the piece that puts out the release of insulin into the body and the management of release of insulin into the body and the release of sugar from the liver when you don't have sugar and you need it. And so the good thing about being diagnosed with the hypothyroid is because over the past couple of years, and it was a pretty high TSH, I think is the name of the blood test. It was a pretty big high TSH. And it was 6 or 7 or the high 6s, low 7s ish. I don't have the blood work in front of me, but it was pretty bad from what the doctor was saying. And so she put me on a new medicine, which is the medicine that they mainly treat everybody with if they have hypothyroidism, which starts with an L. I should have brought the medicine with me. Let me see. I'll just look it up real quick and tell you why not. Levothyroxine. So levothyroxine is the medicine that they gave. And essentially you take it in the morning on an empty stomach. You have to wait 30 minutes or so. And then you can, have your coffee and do your day. And my mother, who's also type 1 diabetes, has had this forever and who knows how long. And so it was really interesting because after she told me that, I was like, that explains the problem that I feel like I've been having with one piece of my life. Now, when I was around 2018, I got into really big into yoga, and I am about 5'5". So I weighed probably when I got into yoga and got into racquetball and really exercising and taking care of myself. My body was around roughly 160, 170 in weight. And then I started getting into bodybuilding, and it leveled off somewhere around I don't want to say bodybuilding. I'll say lifting weights because I wasn't a bodybuilder. It got to about 195, 200, and that's where I kind of maintained. And that was with probably a body fat of around 12 to 15%. And so over the years, working and life taking over, you kind of gain weight, and that's fine. But I could always get it back off and get it back down, in a normal fashion if I needed to. But then about a year ago or a year and a half ago, it started getting really difficult to take off the weight. Now, I am a lot older than I was than when I was in my early 20s. I'm 36 going on 37 now. And so it seemed like, okay, well, I must just be gaining weight. But then I started taking a terrible job where you have to sit down all time. And I'm on the idea that sitting down is the worst fucking thing that you can do for your body. If you have the opportunity to stand and work, I would stand and work, because just going from standing all day and being in the branches at the bank and not having a full sit down job, sitting down is freaking the worst thing ever. My posture got all messed up. My hips started getting messed up. All of these terrible, terrible things. But the thing was, when I started noticing this, I would do yoga. They would start feeling better. I would get a better seat. I would get something for my seat to feel better, to get the posture better. And then a lot of those things would go away. But then over the last couple, maybe 4 or 5 months, none of that stuff was going away, maybe even longer. And so I thought this was just part of getting old. And I was like, well, man, getting old doesn't seem to be that, shouldn't be this shitty. I see John, and John works his ass off and he has a great body and he's in his 40s. And I was like, I don't eat like him, but I enjoy exercising. And I haven't even exercised with him when we first start all of this. And it was the worst workout of all time because I kept getting these really bad sores in my back. And I felt, and he felt, and everybody felt or thought that it had to do with my gut. But then I would do serious workouts, serious fasting, and nothing would happen with my body weight. Or I would lose maybe a pound or a half a pound. And I just chalked it up to being older, and it was my body type and, my insulin and all this stuff, and never really looked into it because I've always been focused on just working, right? And when she told me about hypothyroidism and it being high, I was like, oh man, that's really kind of exciting because now maybe I can get back to losing weight like a normal person would, right? Because I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke, I don't drink soda anymore, I don't drink energy drinks. I haven't had an energy drink or soda in energy drink probably in like 6 months or so. No, 4 months. And then soda I haven't had in, I don't know, I want to say like a year or something like that. And so I have never, and it didn't like really get rid of like the bloating problem that I was having or anything along those lines. I just, and at times when I used to drink a lot of soda, or a lot of energy drinks, I would have like bone pain because it can cause, what's the word? It's not like the deterioration of your bone structure or musculoskeletal, skeletal system problems. And so when I cut all that out, I kind of felt a little better, but nothing really that substantial. And then over the last couple of months, like when I would wake up, my bone, like my bones would hurt. And the only thing that I can explain similar to that, the people that I've known in my life that have had like bone cancer, or the cancer's gone into their bones just hurt, or neuropathy for diabetics, that it gets really bad in your nerve endings and your legs start hurting, because that's what I was having. And I was like, man, I got to really start taking care of my diabetes. So I started, when I would start exercising a lot, I love bike riding. So I would bike for, 30, 40, 50 minutes and then try running. And there would be no weight loss. There would be no release of any type. Obviously that's going to make you tense, but then I would do like durability exercises. None of my weight would really change and none of my bones would get better. And then so when I got sick, thought that I had COVID a couple weeks ago. Well, I didn't think I had COVID, but I got tested because that's the right thing to do because I had some of the symptoms. It took really long time to heal, which is normal because I have type 1 diabetes. It can take longer to heal, but then like nothing really felt super better after that. And then like, I still felt super sluggish. I wasn't really tired all the time, but I would sleep a lot. If I some days I would sleep for like 13 hours, but I thought it was just because I'm always going and always working. Right. And so there's like these crash sessions. And so when she told me that, I was like, oh, maybe the thyroidism can help with the weight. Then I started researching all of the things that hypothyroidism does to your body. And it is literally everything that had been going on. The bone pain, the muscle pain, the nerve ending pain, the hip pain, the weight. I had this really bad cough for the last, not only did I have the bad cough when I was sick, I also had the cough for the last couple of weeks that I couldn't explain it. And like the hoarseness is part of it too when you speak. And obviously some of that's I'm still gonna have some of that just because of the sinuses that I have. But when I looked at all of that up, I was like, man, this is a lot of stuff. I wonder if this medicine will help me feel better. And so I started taking the medicine the following day, and I've been holding like identical to what was being said. And now as I take this medicine, it just every single day I wake up and I feel different. Like yesterday I woke up and none of the bone pain. I woke up with no body pain other than like I had been exercising, right? So I had like some exercise, pain, but like my bone, like I keep looking at my arms and it's weird because I'll just look at my arms and it feels so different. It feels like I did years ago when like I was younger. And I think to me, that's crazy because I had associated it with something that wasn't that shouldn't have been associated with. And my energy all of a sudden, like today specifically, my energy is off the roof as far as how I feel. And I have like maybe 2 cups of coffee in the morning and I do drink iced tea, but I just feel fantastic. And so the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because if I hadn't, I don't like doctors. And I specifically got angry at doctors because a lot of the times, and I'm talking about mainly family physicians, specialists like throat, nose, and ear doctors, or doctors that have doctors that specialize like endocrinologists, or doctors that do heart transplants, or surgeons. Those doctors could not have more respect for those types of doctors. I really have respect for those medical doctors that also get PhDs, and then either teach, medicine also, or they write in journals and do research for it as well. Those people, fantastic, love them. But family physicians have always pissed me off because they don't. I don't like the billing structure of it. So, like, I see my doctor for 15 minutes. If I get a fucking itemization from her, it's like $100 to see someone for 15 minutes that didn't even do anything. And then, depending on your insurance, you might have to go to your physician, and then they're going to charge your insurance, and then they're going to recommend that you go to somewhere else, or you might have to go, through them to get to someone else. And so it's like, what is the fucking benefit do family fucking physicians have? Like, I'm sorry. I think that I'm happy that you went to school for so long. I'm happy about that, but you should really be offering more to the world, in my opinion. And I still hold that stance today because I'm super angry that my family physician, based off of precedence, right? Not off of looking at the blood work and doing tests, which is their job, because their job is to diagnose disease. That's what they went to school for, is to diagnose disease, right? They don't magically make medicine. They diagnose disease, and hopefully there's some medicine out there for it, and put you on a treatment plan, which is a lot different than knowing about health and wellness or nutrition or anything of that nature. And so, like, whenever I would ask some of my doctors about health and nutrition, they don't have an answer. They don't have any care for the being. Their job is to diagnose disease, and they do that fucking poorly also. And so, and also too, if you wanted to diagnose disease, you could go see a nurse practitioner nowadays. They could diagnose the disease and write you a prescription, except for, I think, orthotics. And so when I don't like getting my blood work done because I think doctors are idiots. And that's where I was wrong to an extent. And so, because if your job is to diagnose disease, the only way to diagnose disease properly is to do research or blood work or any types of tests that can help you make the assessment of what's going on in that individual so that you can diagnose the disease properly. And that's where my arrogance was on it. And that's one of the things that I'm glad that I learned in this, because that blood work piece is important in making sure that you're looking at those numbers, because all data is important to assess what's going on. And so finally I bit the bullet, because my doctor wouldn't give me any insulin without getting an A1C and getting my blood work. And so when I went and got my A1C test, which is a test that does the average of your sugar in your blood for if you're a diabetes, to kind of find out what range they want. There's a range that you need to be in that's healthy. And so when I did that, they tested for the TSH as well, and that's when we found out it was high. And so I haven't felt this good in such a long time, especially the skeletal muscular pain that I had been having and going. So I'm hoping that this will help me get back on having the proper amount of hormones in my body that can really help me focus on losing this weight and getting back down into a judo competition weight that I want, the weight class that I want to be in, which is about like 215 to 212. And then from there kind of work my way down as I move into studying that more, which there's a reason behind that. But the reason being is, and I hope to talk about this more, and see, this is how train of thought works. So maybe I'll save it for another time. But I want to get back into, I want to lose that weight. And this is, I feel, going to help. I do not think that it's like a cure to, me losing weight, getting my weight down. But the reason why I'm happy about it is because if if this was causing me to not lose weight, having this fixed will help it so I can lose weight. And it'll give me the proper, I'll be able to lose weight the way that anybody who's got regular hormones in their body lose weight and get into shape. And which is something that I can definitely manage by calories, macro planning, and exercise. And that's why that's super important. And so I really encourage people in their life that, as I talked about earlier, that I was had some conversations with my counselor, that, I don't put a lot of care for my health because I'm trying to do so many things. And, you know, sometimes you have to take a look back and compartmentalize your life better and planning better so that you can include that health and wellness piece. But to that end, I don't feel that there's a lot of stupid fucking memes out in the world. And I forgot which one it was, or if it was someone that said, I don't believe anybody if they don't do these things, or they're not putting in work if they don't do these things, like meditate every day, write gratitude, have a gratitude journal, exercise every day. It was nothing about like the things that you should be learning to move things forward in an industry. And that's one of the things that everybody is just trying to share, these ideas that they learn. Now, you should have all those things. I don't doubt that. I love meditating. I love exercising. I love being grateful for stuff. It's a big part of Buddhism. But those things in of themselves help make you better so that you can do the work that goes into what it is that you're trying to do, right? Because if I'm sitting there and I'm meditating, I'm not going to be studying Java to make the Age of Radio app, or I'm not going to be learning a skill that I need to do to push an industry forward, right? If we're going to solve really hard problems and solve really big things in this world and in a profiteering way, then we have to be educating ourselves and pushing ourselves mentally and the knowledge that we have to create solutions to some of the world's hardest problems. And the reason why that's important is because if you're going to do, or the reason why I'm mentioning this is because if I'm going to continue to do that, I do have to somehow build in a lot more health, add in more items in my day that help me focus on my health, which I felt like I did pretty good because I do kettlebells and maces a couple times a week. I enjoy meditating. I enjoy chanting sutras. So maybe I need to develop more time for that. The other thing that I know that I need to do that I'm sure a lot of other people need to do is really focus on, their nutrition. I just like eating whatever and I'll exercise the rest of it off, but I can't have that mentality forever. Especially because I couldn't exercise it off. And that's what caused me to gain, I think since I've started working on these businesses, I've gained, 220, I've gained almost 30 pounds. Like I got up to around 250, was able to get it down to about 240. I'm stuck at like 242. So I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I do think that everybody needs to take every year doing the blood work that's necessary for their life. And then to be mindful of the changes that are happening in their body and be open to seeing any type of physician to see if they can help diagnose that problem and doing research. Now, the treatment for those problems you may not agree with, and you may want to do some other things like plant medicine or herbs, which is plant medicine, and then and add those things in. But like something with the thyroidism, there's some thyroid herbs that I'm going to start taking, but then also, we know that the levothyroxine works, or however it's pronounced, works, and so I'm going to continue to take that. But oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So I just want everybody out there that chooses to listen to this, make sure that you're taking care of yourself as you're trying to run your businesses, making sure that you're getting your blood work, tracking that data to make sure that you're being mindful of how it changes and grows. Like for me, like the A1C, your cholesterol, your blood work, the TSH now, and being mindful of those things, because if you can look at that data, you can have it in one place, which is something that really frustrates me because getting freaking this data from my doctors is a pain in the ass. But when we look at that, it helps us make assessments in our life. And if I had done this sooner, like I knew that I should have been looking at certain data that we should be looking at for our health and wellness, that I would have noticed this and it wouldn't have gone this far. And I probably would be even more either more productive now or in even a further spot with the businesses and where I'm at in my life. So just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So I hope that you have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to The Age of Jeremy. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. If you can do me a favor, please rate this podcast if your podcatcher allows you to. Talk to you soon.